Hello folks, this is Mike. Thanks for tuning in. In today's video, we're going to retrofit this old workbench and its really poorly fitted drawer cases to handle full extension drawer slides. And we're not going to use any expensive store-bought jigs, no exotic tools. What I am going to do is show you two simple methods to measure for, lay out, and install your drawer slides. One's the story stick method, the second is the upside down method. So be sure to stay tuned and I'll show you how. Now understand folks, this old workbench was built some 40 years ago or better. It's one of my earliest projects. And it's made of used and reclaimed and old painted wood. It's not something I'm really proud of, but I have come a long way since then. Now in today's video, we're going to be fitting slides on drawers in a frameless cabinet. Now if your focus right now is to put those slides in a face frame cabinet, I am planning a video coming soon for that. So you may want to go below and subscribe, ring the bell, and you will be alerted when that video premieres. I also do woodworking, DIY projects, and tool reviews. So let's get started. The first thing we need to do is make some simple measurements. Now you'll need at least 1/2 inch or 13 millimeters on each side of your drawer, and that's for standard 100-pound slides because they are a 1/2 inch thick. Now heavy duty slides can be even thicker, so be sure to check before you buy. So since my cabinet's 30 inches wide and my drawer's 28.5 inch wide, I have an 1.5 inch clearance, which is 1/2 inch too much. So I'm going to fix this problem by applying 1/4 inch thick spacers to my cabinet walls, and I'll mount my slides on that. That'll make up the difference. The slides are marketed in increments of 2 inches, and my drawer side is 18 inches long, so this will be perfect. Before we go any further, I'm going to remove all of these wooden drawer guides on the cabinet wall and on the drawers themselves. They're just going to be in the way for what we're doing. Then I want to go ahead and finish the inside of the cabinet with a coat of paint, and I'll do that off camera. Next, I'm going to cut my shims out of a piece of masonite or MDF board, if you will. And I'm doing that because, unlike most plywoods, MDF will measure out at exactly 1/4 inches thick, which is what I need. Now my cabinet measures out at 19 inches front to back. I have a 3/8 inch lip on my drawer fronts, and I want that to recess into the drawer case. So I'm going to subtract that from my length. Next, my slides measure out at 1 3/4 inches wide. So now I'm cutting 20 shims, 2 for each drawer, which means the overall size will be 1/4 inch thick by 1 3/4 inch wide by 18 5/8 inch long. And then we'll just set those aside for right now. The first problem I encountered with the retrofit is that my drawers are not evenly spaced vertically. So before I can do anything else, I need to determine even spacings for my drawers. Now there's several different ways to do this, but the math is the same for all of them. What we do first is find the height of the drawer case opening. And I'm using this 2-stick jig to do that. It works really well at getting an exact measurement. And you know, the simple things are always the best. So next we need to determine the overall height of our drawers. And you can do that simply by measuring them individually, jotting that down on paper and totaling them up. Or you can map them out on paper as I've done here. Or if your drawer fronts are all the same height, you can try the following. Now you'll notice I've stacked my drawers flat on top of each other on a level surface. So I measure the stack is 25 1/4 inches. Now if you'll remember, my opening was 27 3/8 inch. That's a 2 1/8 inch difference. I've got to compute 6 spacings between my drawers. 1 for the top, 1 for the bottom, and 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've got to compute 6 spacings. I'm going to take that 2 1/8 inch gap at the top, up above my drawers. I'm going to divide that by 6, and I get 3/8 inch. Now, you'll notice I'm brilliant at this math, right? Just did that in my head. Must be a genius. Actually, what I did, and I really struggle with fractional math, and I'm sure many people do, I downloaded an app on my phone, so I cheated. But it's been really handy, and all you have to do is go to your app store, type in fraction calculator, and they'll probably give you a number to choose from. I'm using one called Fraction Calculator Plus. I really like it. It's been a great time saver for me. Now next we're going to go ahead and install our slide halves on our drawer boxes. I'm going to use center mounted slides on the right side of the workbench. On the left side I'm going to use bottom mounted slides just to demonstrate different techniques. I like to find dead center, so I tweak my measurement from side to side until I'm drawing one line right on top of the other. And now I'm going to mark the entire drawer set. To measure for bottom or top mounted slides, you want to take the assembled width of your slide, which is 1 3/4 inches in my case, and divide by 2, which gives me 7/8 of an inch. I'm going to lock that into my square and scribe a line at the bottom. So once that slide half is installed, I can reassemble my slide, and I should be flush with the bottom. And of course, if you do this at the top of the drawer instead of the bottom, you'll get a perfect top-mounted slide. Now we can install our slides on our drawer boxes. So first you need to disassemble your slide. The smaller piece goes on the drawer with the flat and the blunt end butted up against your drawer front. Now if you don't have a front, you can just simply use a wood scrap to flush it up. It'd be better if you clamp this in place securely, but this would work. Now position the slide's row of holes over the line we drew earlier. And using my awl, or you could use a punch, I'm making an indentation for a starter hole. Now this is really not an awl. This is a leftover reamer from one of those tire plug and patch sets, and it works really well. I just simply sharpened it on my grinder. Now we're going to use the 2 vertical slots on your slide piece. That's so we can adjust up or down a bit. We'll install the rest of the screws when everything is fitted. I'm also using the 1/2-inch screws that were provided with the slide. And of course this same procedure applies to those bottom mounted slides that we also laid out earlier. We've got a lot of preliminary work done here now, but we need to go ahead and plot the position of the slides on the cabinet wall. So let me show you both methods. Now the first method I want to show you is the story stick method, and this is a story stack. Now you'll notice all these marks, and what you do is you lay out your measurements accurately on this stick. Then I can take this to my table saw or my miter saw, I can set a stop, and I can make accurate repeating cuts. Each mark on the stick indicates the position of the bottom of the assembled slide on your cabinet wall, and we're going to cut wood pieces to automatically position them on the money. So in essence, this stick tells a story. So next we're going to show you how to lay out and mark the stick. So here's our drawer case, and what we want to do in this example is plot the bottom of each individual drawer front on our story stick. Now this will be a reference line, and we can adjust that line depending on whether you have center, bottom, or top mounted slides. So first I cut a square cut stick. Well, the bottom space is 3/8 of an inch, so I set that on my square and I mark it. Since the bottom of the assembled slide is flush with the bottom of the drawer, this will be my first slide mounting location. Next I take my first drawer height, which is 7 1/4 inches, and add the 3/8 inch between drawer height, which will make it 7 5/8. And I add that above my first mark and note that on my stick. Now this will be the next drawer location or drawer slide location. And then the next drawer is 5 1/2 inches tall, plus the 3/8 inch space will be 5 7/8. I mark that, and so on up the stick. But what about a center or top mounted slide location? Well, we have that situation on the right side drawer case. Well, we measure from the bottom edge of the drawer front to the bottom of the assembled slide and simply add that distance to our drawer's bottom mark on our stick. And since we have two sets of lines, I'm going to mark one of those with an arrow just to make sure we don't get confused and make the wrong cut in the wrong place. And of course, you just repeat the same process for each drawer. Just remember that for inset drawers, no matter whether you have bottom, center, or top mounted slides, you always measure from the bottom of the drawer front to the bottom of the assembled slide. Now, if you have overlay doors that cover part of the cabinet front, well, that's a game changer, and you'll need to factor those overlaps into the equation. Now, if you have drawers like mine, where the fronts are the exact same height as the drawer sides, then this next method may be a really good fit for you. Now, I know this looks unusual. I've stacked my drawers upside down on my work table. But remember, there's a method to my madness, and I'll show you in just a minute. In addition to stacking them upside down, I've cut some 3/8" spacers. Now, I've precision cut these on my table saw and measured them to make sure they were exactly 3/8 of an inch. I inserted them on both sides between each drawer stack and at the bottom. This will duplicate the spacings we're going to have of the cabinet. I've also cut some 3/8" spacers like this just to measure with. So now let's measure for the position of our slides and shims on our cabinet wall. And the first step will be to reassemble our slides on our drawers. So I've got all 5 assembled here. Now you'll also notice my stack still upside down. I've got my shims still in place, except that the shims run lengthwise. And that way I can move the drawers back and forth a little bit to measure. Also, I've attached a 3/8" block at the top, which is the thickness of the space under the drawer, and that overlaps to match the thickness of the slide. So now what I want to do is I'm going to push the bottom one back a bit, and that's so that I can set a stick on it. And I need something to mark with. So I'm going to set my stick on the top of the bottom slide. I'm going to butt it up against my spacer at the top, and I'm simply going to mark it. And there it is. Now the next step will be to go to my miter saw and cut this off at that level. I'll set a stop so I can cut 2 of these. You'll put that level in, then you'll recut the stick for the next level, and so on to the bottom of the drawer. Now some people might cut 5 sets of sticks, 1 for each level, and that's okay if you want to do that. It's just a matter of personal preference. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull this back, and I'll push this back. Now you'll notice I've marked the up position of the stick, and I'll go ahead and measure the next one. I'm going to get all my marks on my stick. So there we go. So we're ready to rock and roll. Now that we're done with the measurement process, we can set up a stop on our table saw or our miter saw and precision cut at the top mark, which is of course for the top slide. And I'm cutting 2 sticks. Now where possible, I clamped my sticks to the side wall of the cabinet. And then I took my square and I locked in 3/8", which is the setback for my drawer fronts, and I marked it. And I didn't have anything to clamp to in the back of the cabinet, so I just propped up a slide against the stick, and that worked. So now I'm going to set the shim on top of the sticks and position the front of it at the setback line. I had pre-drilled a series of countersunk holes in the shim to make this easier, and I used 3/4 by 6 bugle head screws. Now be sure that your screw heads do not stand proud of the shim, or your slide won't seat properly. I next set my slide half on top of the sticks, and the front should be set right at the setback line like the shim. Now I replaced the screws that came with the slides too, and I'm using some 8 by 3/4" dome head screws. If you're not using shims and you're mounting your slides directly on the sidewall, the 1/2-inch screws that came with the slides will be perfect. I just didn't feel comfortable relying on the MDF shims to hold the screws, so I went a little bit longer. Also notice these expansion tabs on the slides. These actually can bend and help with the fitting process if you have too much play or slop on the side of your drawers. So I'm installing my screws in these 2 holes. And we will add the rest of the screws after we get the drawers fitted. Now when I got my first set of top slides in, I did a test fit on my drawers and it was good. With the top slides installed on each side of the case, it's back to the miter saw to cut the next level. So once that level is cut and installed, then it's back to the miter saw and so on until they're all done. When you get to your bottom drawer with the center mounted slides, we still have enough stick to work with. But I'm sure you'd like to see how we're going to install the drawers with the bottom mounted slides. Now one thing for sure, we don't try to use that little nub that was left over on our stick. Instead I've cut some 3/8-inch spacers. It's the same concept though. We put the shims on the bottom and we mount the shim first and then the slide, just like we did using the sticks. And the last thing we have to do is test fit our drawers. If you get a good fit, you can put in the rest of your screws and you're basically done. And if it doesn't go back together well, let me show you some adjustments you can make. As you can see here on the right side, I've got a pretty good fit. I just need to work on these drawers on the lipped edges because they drag a little bit. Of course, they always did. But I do have one drawer here that's not level. You can see it's a much tighter gap here than it is at the bottom. Now remember that we used those vertical slots on the side of our drawers. So now we can take the drawer out and we can just adjust those up or down till we get the drawer level and right. And you can see now we've got a really good fit. Now on the left drawer stack, there's a much more complicated problem. And that's because these drawers are actually 1/4 of an inch narrower than the right hand side. And as you can see, there's no way these drawers are going to be able to dock. I could have put in extra shims ahead of time, but remember those expansion slots that I showed you on the slides earlier? Well, I want to show you how they work. I've removed the drawers and I've installed all 5 screws, one for each expansion slot in each slide. Now I'm using a flat bladed screwdriver and I'm simply just prying the slides away from the wall. When I'm able, I'll install the drawers, and since the slide halves interlock, they will automatically pull out the slides away from the wall and pretty much align themselves. It's pretty cool, don't you think? So now I have good fitting drawers on both sides of my workbench. So all I have to do now is run in the rest of my screws, put my tools back in the drawers, and move on to the next project. Well folks, that's our video for today. And I hope after watching this that you got something from it, and I hope that you'll feel confident now to go out and tackle those drawers and put in those drawer slides. Also folks, remember that comments and suggestions, etc. are appreciated and encouraged, and I'll do my best to personally answer you. Also, please go below and like our video if you liked it. And since I've got more videos coming, be sure to click that subscribe button and ring that bell so you won't miss anything. And until next time, thanks for watching.